is thought without control. Flow is control without thought. James Clear. Now that you've come to the realization that thinking is the root cause of suffering, you may be wondering, how can I possibly thrive in the world without thinking? To answer that question, let's consider a different one. What thoughts are going through your head when you're doing your absolute best work, when you're fully captivated and entranced by what you're doing in the moment? Take a moment and see what answer comes up for you. If you still haven't had any insight from an answer, here's another question that may help. When you love what you do and are so completely immersed in it that you lose all sense of time and space, in other words, enter a flow state, how much thinking is going on at that moment? Pause here and wait for an answer to arise. Isn't that an interesting phenomenon? When you're doing your best work and are in a total state of flow, there is no separation between you and the work you are doing. Little to no thinking is happening in the mind. Your self-judgmental chatter is minimal or even silent. And if you have thoughts, they are neutral, constructive, or creative. They aid you in the activity you are engaged in and flow right through you without you having to think about them. In other words, the state of peak performance for humans can be described as the state of non-thinking. It may come as a surprise to you, but we do our best work when we aren't thinking. Here's another example that illustrates this idea from another perspective. When professional athletes are competing, do you think they are thinking and overanalyzing every single thing that's happening during the game? How much thinking do you imagine is going on during the competition for them? The highest performing athletes will describe their peak state as being in the zone. This zone is the state of flow or non-thinking. I use both terms in this book. Know that they are interchangeable. In Japanese culture, there is a beautiful word to describe this phenomenon, mushin, which is often translated as no mind. Here's the definition of mushin in practice from the Shotokan Times. Mushin is achieved when the mind is free of random thoughts, free of anger, free of fear, and particularly free of ego. It applies during combat and/or other facets of life. When mushin is achieved during combat, there is an absence of loose or rambling thoughts. It leaves the practitioner free to act and react without hesitation. He reacts according to all of the study and training that has brought him to this point, relying on not what you think should be your next move, but on what your trained, instinctive, subconscious reaction directs you to do. After practice, thinking hinders the performance of athletes, and the same is true for everyone. We only hesitate, are reluctant, and have doubts when we begin thinking and overanalyzing. We function and perform our best and embody our full potential when we enter a state of non-thinking. Because there is no separation when we are in a flow state, we can say that it is a state where we are in direct connection and alignment with the universe, God, infinite intelligence. Thinking blocks this connection we have with the divine, causing us to feel stress, frustration, anger, resentment, depression, and all of these negative emotions many of us feel daily. This is why some religions describe hell as a complete separation from God. Many attribute the state of non-thinking or flow to a particular activity that we love to do, which creates a misconception that that's the only time we can be in flow. This is only half true. We can be in a state of non-thinking at any point in time as long as we are rooted in the present moment. Only in the present moment can the truth be found. This is why mindfulness instructors, spiritual masters, and even therapists share the importance of meditation, breathing, and being in the present moment. In the Bible, when Moses asks God his name, he replies, I am. God doesn't say he was or will be, because those don't exist in the now. He simply says, I am. God, truth, the universe, freedom, peace, joy, and love, these terms are all synonymous, can only be found and therefore experienced in the present. In a state of flow, grounded in the present moment, we are free from the limitations of the ego and can create the most incredible things in the world. You cannot think your way into flow, just as much as you cannot think your way into love. Both are a natural occurrence when we let go and allow the full, authentic expression of ourselves to come forth. They are a byproduct of surrender and trust. Chapter 9. What about our goals, dreams, and ambitions? There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge. Napoleon Hill. I think, therefore I suffer. When I finally realized that thinking was the root cause of my suffering, it was a huge epiphany for me. I felt exhilarated, relieved, and grateful that I had discovered the true reason for my negative experiences. This ecstasy was short-lived, though, because soon after the exuberance settled, the following questions popped into my mind. If thinking is the root cause of all my suffering, and I stop thinking, how do I live my life now? What about all of my goals, dreams, and ambitions? Do I need to stop wanting things in life? Will I devolve into a couch potato and not do anything meaningful with my life? As I pondered these questions, fear and anxiety began to surface because it seemed that in order to find peace and happiness, I would need to give up all of my dreams and become a monk in the middle of the mountains. I was not ready to do that, nor did I want to. As much as detaching from my life might have made my journey easier, I genuinely enjoyed being in the world and experiencing the fullness of life with other people. So what are we to do if we wish to end our suffering, but also not give up the lives we have built? To answer that question, let's return to the concept of thoughts versus thinking. As we discussed previously, each has a different source. Thoughts come from the universe or our higher selves, while thinking comes from our own egos. The source dictates whether it causes suffering or not. Similarly, where our goals and dreams come from will determine how we feel pursuing them. The key is understanding the difference. There are two sources of goals: goals created out of inspiration and goals created out of desperation. When goals are created out of desperation, we feel an immense sense of scarcity and urgency. They feel heavy, like a burden, and we may feel daunted by the colossal task we've just committed ourselves to. Imposter syndrome and self-doubt begin to manifest, and we feel like we're always short on time. We go about our lives frantically, desperately searching for ways to accomplish our goals faster, always looking externally to fill the void we feel internally. Worst of all, if we achieve the goal, soon after, all of those feelings of lack begin to resurface again. We start feeling discontented with what we've done, unable to savor our accomplishments, and because what we did never feels like it's enough, we feel the same way about ourselves. Not knowing what else to do, we look at what others are doing for guidance and see that they're continuing to do the same thing. Thus, we proceed to set another goal out of desperation in an attempt to escape all the negative feelings gnawing away at our souls. When we dig a little deeper into these types of desperation goals, we see that they're all typically means goals and not end goals. In other words, we want to accomplish that goal in order to get something else, which is why these goals make us feel that we never have enough. An example of this would be having a goal of becoming famous in order to finally feel significant. Unless you address the internal root worry that you're not good enough, achieving this external goal will never change how you feel. Ironically, if we achieve a goal created out of desperation, we end up feeling even emptier than before. So, we set an even bigger goal, and then an even bigger one, never reaching a state of fulfillment. No matter how hard we try, or how big of a goal we set, it seems as though it will never be enough. If you have experienced this, know that you are not alone. This is how most of us set our goals and live our lives. The only reason I can describe it in such detail is that this is how I lived my life as well. Here's the good news. It's not your fault if you set goals that way. It's what so many of us have been taught to do, and there's a way out through creating goals and dreams out of inspiration instead of desperation. When we create goals out of inspiration, it's an entirely different story. In this state, we are creating because we feel deeply moved, inspired, and expansive. Our goals feel like a calling rather than an obligation. We feel like a powerful force of life is coming from within us, wanting to be expressed through us and into the physical world. This is why painters paint, dancers dance, writers write, and singers sing, even if they never get paid or make a living from it. We feel pulled instead of forced to create something. We gravitate towards it. We feel compelled to do it. When we feel like this, we create from a place of abundance instead of lack. Most of us had goals from inspiration when we were kids: to act on stage, to cook like a chef, to write a book, to explore space, to make art, to save animals, to heal people, to invent something, to make people laugh. What did you dream of doing when you were a kid? How would it feel just to do it for fun to any degree you can? This will reveal to you some of the goals of inspiration you may have forgotten about. Even as adults, we naturally have goals of inspiration. It could be starting a charity, business, hobby, or animal shelter. It could be raising a family, traveling the world, living off-grid, growing a garden, learning a new language or instrument, running a marathon, or starting a blog. When we create goals out of inspiration, we are not creating from a place of lack. We don't create because we feel like we have to or we need more. We create because we want to. This type of creation is an overflowing of love and joy for life. This is the reason why most of us want or have children, not because we want something from them, but because we want to share the abundance of what we have with them. This feeling of deep inspiration comes not from us, but through us from something greater than ourselves. I call this feeling divine inspiration because our ideas of what we want to create seem far bigger than we could have imagined or come up with on our own. It knows no boundaries, limits, or constraints. It's an expansive force that energizes and lifts us, making us feel high on life. In this state, we feel whole, complete, and filled with unconditional love, joy, and peace. It's one of the greatest feelings we can experience. Everyone has experienced this feeling of pure inspiration. Before moving on, pause and spend a moment recalling a time in your life when you felt an overwhelming desire to create something magnificent because you felt deeply inspired to. It doesn't matter if you actually created it or not. Just think of a time when you felt that feeling of inspiration. Isn't it just one of the most amazing feelings in the entire world? Most of us feel this divine inspiration, but then suppress it as soon as we begin thinking about bringing it to life. We begin to think ourselves into doubt, rationalize why we can't achieve these goals, and tell ourselves that they are unrealistic, that we should focus on more important things, and that we're not good enough. As soon as we begin to think about the thought of wanting to create, we completely shut off the source of that inspiration, and we go back to living life in desperation. When we cut off that source, we also cut off feelings of abundance, vitality, ecstasy, joy, and unconditional love, and go back to feelings of doubt, anxiety, frustration, and sadness. When we live a life of non-thinking, we don't stop having goals and dreams. We just create goals and dreams out of inspiration instead of desperation. So how can you tell whether a goal is created out of inspiration or desperation? Goals created from desperation and inspiration look very similar from the outside, but they differ greatly under the surface. A simple way to know if a goal or dream is created out of inspiration is to remember the distinction between thoughts and thinking. Goals and dreams that come in the form of thought are created out of inspiration. Goals and dreams that come from thinking are created out of desperation. Goals from desperation are typically rooted in fear and make your happiness conditional on achieving them. Goals from inspiration are rooted in love and focus more on the joy of doing over the outcome. The joy comes from the act itself, not just what you externally get out of it. The reason why you create the goal will determine how you feel while pursuing it. Goals of inspiration come from identifying what you value and what is most important to you. Is it security? Raising a loving family? Traveling? Creativity? Learning? Peace? Expressing yourself? Goals of inspiration are aligned with your values, while goals of desperation contradict them. For this reason, one person's goal of inspiration can be another person's goal of desperation. It all depends what your values are. For an author who values their craft but feels driven by a sense of insecurity, an example of a goal created from desperation would be to want to hit the bestseller list because it would finally make them feel like they were good enough. A goal created from inspiration would be to write a book because they love the act of writing with their whole being. The first goal was created to try to prove they are good at what they do, external validation, and the second was created because they simply love what they do. The second aligns with their values, while the first does not. But for an author who primarily values spreading their message as far as possible, the opposite might be true. For this person, reaching the bestseller list could be a goal of inspiration. It all depends on understanding our own personal value systems. For most of us, however, goals born from a love of the work itself will lead to greater happiness than goals based on achieving a certain output. And more times than not, falling in love with what you are doing in the present will allow you to achieve many of those external goals you previously had as a byproduct. Love will take you further than sheer effort ever will. I want to emphasize that I'm not saying we shouldn't have financial goals. There are no right or wrong goals, only goals created from inspiration or desperation. What matters is the source of the goal, not necessarily the goal itself. For instance, if a person values safety and stability for their family, a goal of making money in order to achieve this could absolutely be a goal of inspiration. But for that same person, making money in order to achieve social status might be a goal of desperation. The key is in asking yourself, what does money give me or allow me to do that I value most? It's also important to recognize that when you create a goal from inspiration, it does not necessarily mean you are meant to drop everything and devote every moment of your day to it. Most of us are not in a position to do that, but what we can do is begin taking small steps toward that goal each day. What matters is not how long you are doing it each day, but that you are doing it to some capacity every day. If your goal of inspiration is to raise the best family you can, what are you doing on a daily basis to help you achieve that goal? If it is to become the best you can be at your job, what steps are you taking each day to incrementally improve? If it is to grow a garden, can you start with one small herb? If it is to learn a new language, can you learn a word a day? If it is to travel, what are you doing each day to allow you to do so more often? You may not be able to travel each day, but you can do many things to enable you to travel more often, such as saving a bit more each day, exploring remote work options, or maybe even taking a language class. There are an infinite number of ways for you to make your goals from inspiration a reality. It's not about if you can do it, but how you can make it happen. Start small and do it at any capacity you can daily. Doing so will create more meaning and fulfillment in your life because you will be making progress on what matters most to you each day. This is how we can find more love and joy in the doing and not just the outcome. So how do we create goals and dreams out of inspiration? As with surfacing thoughts, creating goals and dreams from divine inspiration isn't something you have to try to do. We naturally have thoughts of inspiration all the time. If you look at children, they naturally have the wildest dreams of what they want to do. It almost never registers in their minds that they might not be able to accomplish something. The only difference between us and children is that we have learned to shut down these thoughts of inspiration. Imagine your inspiration is a river, and thinking is a dam. If a dam is built to block the river, it leads to the death of fish, the disappearance of wildlife, flooding, and the destruction of forests. Our thinking creates a dam that blocks the river of inspiration within our minds, leading to self-doubt, self-sabotage, and anxiety. But once the dam is removed, the ecosystem will heal and return to its natural state. The same is true for our minds. When we're tapped into our intuition and free from the blockages that come from thinking, new inspiring thoughts and ideas can freely come through us as intended, and that is how we can create goals out of inspiration instead of desperation. A question that significantly helps me settle my unhelpful thinking and tap into the limitless well of creative possibilities is this: if I had infinite money, had no fear, and didn't feel the need to receive any recognition, what would I do or create? Try asking the question and seeing what comes up for you. You'll be surprised at what surfaces when you remove the barriers of fear, criticism, and self-doubt. Let the inspiration rise to the surface, but then don't get caught up in thinking. Allow your true dreams to reveal themselves without shutting them down. To a mind without the limits of thinking, anything is possible. If you want to stay alive, nourish your body. If you want to feel alive, nourish your soul. Chapter 10. Nothing is either good or bad. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. William Shakespeare. Picture a piano with 88 keys. When we look at a piano, we don't point out specific keys and say they are bad or wrong. We only think a particular key is wrong if it sounds unpleasant in the context of a piece of music. Outside of the context of a song, the piano has no wrong keys, only notes that can be combined in infinite ways. Just like how there are no wrong keys on the piano, there are no wrong decisions in life, only different paths. All we have to do is choose which to take. If we categorize paths as right or wrong, we close ourselves off from the ocean of opportunities available to us. Now, when I say there is no right or wrong, I don't mean this is a license to cause harm. It is absolutely not. What I mean is there is not one correct path when navigating our personal decisions on this journey of life. Knowing there is no right or wrong relieves us of the pressure to choose the right one. Take, for example, a hike up a mountain. On this hike, there will be different spots where you can stop to look at the view. There are no wrong spots to stop to take in the magnificence of nature. And by being open to all places, we can see the view from different vantage points we haven't seen before. If you judge an option too soon, you may be missing out on the most beautiful view yet. Even an option that seems lesser may hold unexpected benefits if you explore it further. Instead of looking for right or wrong, good or bad, look for truth without judgment. But beware of falsehoods that you may have convinced yourself are the truth. The truth is rarely in the extremes, but somewhere in between. The actual truth is not subjective. If it is true for one person, but not for another, then it is not a universal truth. Look for what is universally true for every conscious human being on the planet, no matter who they are, where they're from, and what their background may be. That is the truth, and where you'll find everything you've been searching for. Remember that the truth is only ever inside, so don't try to look for it outside of you. What you obtain externally can always be lost, but what you find within yourself can never be taken away. An intelligent person is constantly learning. A wise person is always unlearning. Chapter 11. How to follow your intuition. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Steve Jobs. Although there are no right or wrong decisions we can make, just like there are no right or wrong keys on a piano, there are decisions that are more aligned with us than others, depending on the context. So then, how do we choose which path to take? When we make decisions, we want to rely on non-thinking. The more we try to think, analyze, and ask for outside opinions, the more it causes unnecessary anxiety and frustration. Most of the time, we already know deep down what to do. This is often referred to as your intuition, gut feeling, or inner wisdom. When we seek outside counsel, we're actually just looking to confirm what our intuition is already telling us. But inviting an outside opinion will more than likely lead to more self-doubt. Only you can know what is right for you. No one else can tell you this. There will be mentors and teachers who can offer guidance, but the best ones will tell you to listen to your intuition and look within yourself for the answer. The truth is only ever within you. This is why many of us experience regret after following another's advice. Deep down, we know we shouldn't have ignored our instincts. Your intuition will always lead you to where you need to go. It is a real-time inner navigation system that will tell you when to take a detour and which path to follow if you encounter a roadblock. It will guide you to exactly where you need to go, but the path it takes may surprise you. Do not doubt yourself. Trust that your intuition is bringing you exactly where you need to be. So what does following your intuition look like? When you're following your intuition, you're tapped into something greater than yourself. You're in a state of non-thinking and in direct connection with the universe. Intuition is not a form of thinking. It's a sense of knowing. You're not thinking about what to do, you just know what to do. It's not about making the right choice, but about trusting yourself and understanding you are choosing what is best for your current situation. Instead of trying to make a decision based on whether something is right or wrong, good or bad, make it based on the decision that feels most expansive and aligned with who you are and what you value most. Your intuition will tell you what that choice is when you ask. When you follow your intuition, you are guided by an innate intelligence we all have, and you will always know what you need to do. To return to a concept from a previous chapter, trusting your intuition is how you operate when you're in a flow state. When you're in this zone, tasks seem effortless, and you open yourself up to information and opportunities beyond your logical mind. Intuition is how mothers know how to take care of their newborns without having much or any training. It's how you know your friend may not be fine, even though they say they are. You likely use your intuition more often than you're aware of. When considering intuition, many automatically assume it's only used within creative tasks and projects. But it is also highly useful in navigating life, whenever there may not be one obvious right answer. It is that gut feeling that tells us to leave or to start a relationship or job, or to move to a new place. It tells us when to marry someone or start a family, what new thing we should try, or which old habit we should stop, and whether to talk to a stranger who might end up becoming a close friend. It is that still, quiet voice that always nudges us towards the things we need and the things that will help us grow most in the moment. Fear keeps us where we are. Intuition leads us to who we want to be. This does not mean we should not use our intellect, logic, and reason. Rather, it is about using them without negative judgment and trusting our intuitive decisions so that we don't end up in a spiral of overthinking and suffering. The key is to use our thoughts instead of thinking. For example, if we are cooking with a recipe or brainstorming new ideas for work, we want to use our thoughts to help guide us. This means neutrally observing the situation and responding accordingly, but without attaching judgment to it. Too often, our thinking will kick in when executing these actions and we'll end up thinking, "I'm not a good cook," or "I never have any good ideas." This negative story we create around the task is unnecessary and unhelpful. Our thinking minds will convince us that we must have everything figured out. But buying into this belief will only cause additional stress and suffering. We don't have to have it all figured out, nor can we. How can our limited minds possibly understand and try to manipulate the entire world to our desires? The great news is that we don't have to know everything. All we have to do is trust in our intuition and have faith that our inner wisdom will show us the best way forward. When you ask people who are the most abundant, joyful, and successful how they made it and what led them to make the decisions they did, if you keep digging and asking why, they will eventually reveal that they followed their intuition. If they had listened to only logic and reason, they would have never taken a leap of faith to pursue their dreams. Our intuition can see things the mind cannot. Most of the greatest achievements and creations of our time were once deemed impossible and therefore irrational to attempt. But we do not live in a world of impossibility. We live in a world of infinite possibilities. Following our hearts can be risky, but we guarantee our unhappiness when we do not. Your intuition is usually the choice that makes you feel a tinge of fear because it requires you to step into the unknown to create a new reality rather than stay in your familiar one. Nothing that grows can stay the same, especially you. Diving in headfirst to explore the unknown is something humans were created to do and cannot resist. The unknown is where we feel most alive. Although our minds crave certainty, our hearts desire freedom. We live in an illusion of certainty. Most of what we have can be lost or taken away at a moment's notice. We all know the only constant is change, yet we spend most of our energy trying to fight what is natural and inevitable, and wonder why we are suffering so much. It is not change that we should fear, but staying the same. Most things in life are out of our control. This is not to say that we should give up because we can't control our lives. It's quite the opposite. The path to peace is not to pursue certainty, but to relax into uncertainty, to surrender to the ebbs and flows of life, and accept things as they are instead of how you think they should be. It's not about trying to force things to happen a certain way, but about trusting that you will be okay, no matter what happens. While we can't control everything that happens, we can always control our reactions, and therefore our emotions. This is how we can choose to be happy, by choosing to let go of our thinking. Isn't that what ultimately matters at the end of the day? It's not what we have, but how we feel inside that is the true measure of success, joy, and fulfillment. We have the gift of imagination, which means our creative potential is limitless, but we create stress for ourselves when we think we need to figure out the how to make it happen. At this point, most people give up or continue down the path of brute force to try to bring it to life and suffer daily for it. We tell ourselves we must suffer for what we want, but that is not true if we trust our intuition instead. Our job is determining what we want, not necessarily how to get it. The how is up to the universe, and delegating this responsibility is ideal because there are an infinite number of ways to bring about what we want in life. Our intuition will rarely show us every detail of how we can create what we imagine, but it will always show us the very next step to take in the present moment. Trying to figure it all out in advance will only lead to overthinking. The path forward is only revealed when we begin walking. We can always get what we desire in life. It just may happen in a different way or at a different time from how or when we expect it to happen. Our intuition speaks to us all the time. You know that small voice inside that somehow constantly knows what you should do? It's that gut feeling you get when you know what you need to do. Have you ever regretted not following that feeling? Have you ever felt compelled to do something for no logical reason, but then amazing things happened when you followed it? That is your intuition. Our intuition speaks to us through thoughts and feelings. But remember, there is a stark difference between thoughts and thinking. Thinking is the negative judgment of our intuition, the worry that blocks us from following our hearts. Your intuition is the choice that feels most expansive, aligned, and unknown. It is always calm, clear, direct, and unattached. It will often go against your logical, rational mind, so be prepared. It will tell you to grow, to be more creative, and to try new things. It will softly beckon you to pursue what you truly want instead of following what everyone else says you should want. When you follow your intuition, you create a life of freedom, love, and joy. So why don't more people listen to their intuition? Because of fear. Listening to our intuition can be daunting. This is because our intuition lives in the realm of the unknown. We fear the unknown because it's unpredictable. But it's only when we step into the unknown that we can begin opening ourselves up to opportunities to create a different experience of life than the one we're living. Other people may not agree with your decisions, but you are not here to sacrifice your peace for other people's preferences. You are here to learn, grow, and love, And many times, doing what will help you grow the most will make others around you uncomfortable because they are not ready for it. And that is okay, because everyone grows on their own time. But you don't have to let other people's fears become your reality. Don't let them stop you from doing what makes you feel alive and inspired. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or can't, you're right." If we live our lives thinking we can't, we block ourselves from all of the possibilities of what we can do. The first step is realizing that we already know what to do. The only thing holding us back is fear. When we release the brake in our mind and realize that it's just our thinking holding us back, we return to our natural state of abundance, creativity, and pure possibility. Surrender, trust your intuition, take the next step in front of you, and let the universe do the rest. Are you making decisions to feel safe or to feel free?